Hi everyone, these are our notes for section 1E. We're going to be learning about exponents and order of operations. So let's go ahead and get right into this. This is a number, or a problem really, a math problem written in exponential form. And this is really just a shortcut for a multiplication problem, but it is not the multiplication 8 times 3 as we're going to see here. We need to know two vocabulary terms. The first vocabulary term is for this large number, the bigger number of the two, the 8. And that one is called the base. And then the smaller number is called the exponent or the power. Now the way that this problem works is the exponent tells us how many times to write the base as a factor or a multiplier in a multiplication problem. So 8 to the third would be equal to 8 times 8 times 8. Not 8 times 3, that's a different problem. This is 8 times 8 times 8. And when I multiply this out, 8 times 8 would be 64, and then 64 times 8 would give me 512. 8 times 3 is only 24, so you can see that these are vastly different problems. This is a shortcut way to write a multiplication problem where the multipliers or the factors are all the same number, where they stay the same. This kind of form is really useful for some kinds of scientific investigations where they're dealing with either very, very large numbers or very, very small numbers. You'll see that applied there. The way that we're going to use them for our purposes is to use them in order of operations problems. And so let's go ahead and get a little more familiar with these exponents before we dive into order of operations. Now, maybe you've worked with exponents before in the past. That's great. Then you'll have a good base. And if you haven't, that's okay too. We'll catch you up here. So I've already done my first problem here. The first problem says write the expression in exponential form, or write with an exponent is what that means. And so I have 5 3's here in my multiplication problem. This is the 3 is written 5 different times with multiplication sign in between them. And so my base is the number that's repeated, so that's the 3. And the number of times it's repeated is the exponent. So this is 3 to the 5th power. This is the expanded form, and then this is the exponential form. And if we figured out what this is, the answer to this, like we did up here with 512, then that would be our standard form. All right, so let's look at the next one. It's 7 times 7. So the number that's repeated is the base. So our base is 7. And the number of times it's repeated is our exponent. So since the 7 is repeated twice, that's our exponent. All right, now I want you to pause the video for just a minute, and I want you to do this last one on your own, and then start the video up again and see if you got that right. Okay, so if you did that correctly, you saw that the 5 was repeated 8 times, and the 5 is the base, and then the 8 would have been the exponent. All right, so let's go on, and now instead of writing them in exponential form, let's do the opposite. We've got them written in exponential form, and let's write them then as repeated multiplication. So our first one says 2 to the 5th. That means we take the 2 and we write it 5 different times with the multiplication symbol in between the 2. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2 to the 5th power is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Now 5 to the 1st, that means that we only write it once. So we really don't have a lot of work to do there. 5 to the 1st is equal to 5. All right, pause the video now and try 4 to the 7th on your own. All right, did you write the 4 down 7 times? So that it looks like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, hope you got that one correctly. Let's look at the next section. Now the next section says find the value. In other words, put these in standard form, solve them. So let's look at the first one. 4 squared, again, is not going to be equal to 8 because it means 4 times 4. That's our expanded form. And 4 times 4 is 16. And the next one, 5 to the 4th, means 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. So this one takes a little bit of work to figure out. 5 times 5 is 25, and then 25 times 5, so I've taken care of those 2 5s. 25 times 5 would give me 125, so I've taken care of those 2 5s. And then 5 times 125, I might have to do that over here. I might have to do a little multiplication problem to figure that out. get 625 there when we do that multiplication. All right, so 6 to the third, I want you to pause the video and I want you to figure that one out for yourself. Okay, so for 6 to the third, you should have written 6 times 6 times 6, and then 6 times 6 is 36, so we took care of those two 6's, and then we're left with 6 times 36. And maybe you needed to say, all right, well, what is 36 times 6? 6 times 6 is 36, carry my 3. 6 times 3 is 18, and 3 more would give me 21, and so we should have had the answer of 216. Let me go back here and circle. We're getting a little busy here, so I'll circle my answers there. All right. Now, 9 to the 0 power is interesting. We know it can't be 9 because 9 to the first power would be 9. So it can't be 9. So we're going to have to come up with a rule for when we're raising something to the 0 power. And so the rule for that is anything raised to the 0 power will be equal to 1. So let's write that down. Any number raised to the 0 power equals 1. That's always true. Doesn't matter what this number is, if it's raised to the 0 power, it equals 1. All right, so then 13 to the first power, we know then is 13, because anything raised to the first power is the number itself. Okay, now we're going to learn our order of operations. So, order of operations is just a way so that we can both come up with the same answer when we do our problems. If we don't have an order of operations and we work out some problems, if we do the problems in different order, we may come up with different answers. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. If I had the problem 3 plus 2 times 5, I might say, well, 3 plus 2 comes first, so I'm going to do that first, and that would give me 5. And then I'm going to do the 5 times 5, and then that would give me 25. So I would get an answer of 25. But I might be the person who likes to take care of my multiplication first, so I might do 2 times 5 first, which would give me 10, and then add my 3, and I get 13. So you can see those are not the same answers, same problem, same numbers, same operations, but not the same answers. And because we might have this situation where we get different answers, that's a problem. So that's why mathematicians came up with an order of operations. And in fact, this one, which is maybe a little more likely that we might do that one, is not the correct answer. The correct answer is our bottom one there, and we'll see why that's true here in just a minute. So our order of operations goes this way. First, we're going to do anything that's in parentheses. So parentheses will come first. Then we're going to do any exponents. So you can see why it was important for us to know how to work with our exponents. Then we're going to either multiply or divide whichever comes first in the problem. So multiply or divide first in whichever one is first in the problem, from left to right. And then the same thing with add and subtract. We're either going to add or we're going to subtract. Let's make a big or here. Whichever comes first in the problem. All right, so I want to play a little song for you here to maybe help you remember this.
Parentheses first, exponents next. Multiplication and division in the same step. Addition and subtraction, if you got the nerve. From left to right, first come, first serve. Parentheses first, 2 times 4, the product's 8. Are you ready for more? Exponents next, 2 squared is 4. Let's move down like we did before. Time to divide or multiply. Let's see what we got. Take a look at the signs. Divide the 8 by the 2. The quotient's 4 and we're almost through. It's finally time to add or subtract. 8's the answer and that's a fact.
Bring that down!
Exponents next. Multiplication and division in the same step. Addition is subtraction. If you got the nerve, from left to right. First come, first serve. 2. Parentheses first. 2 times 6. The product's 12. Put it back in the mix. Exponents next. 3 squared is 9. When you know the tricks, it don't take much time. Now we divide or multiply. Let's see what we got. Take a look at the signs. 9 divided by 9 is 1. The answer's close, man. We're almost done. 4 minus 1 has a difference of 3. When we add the 12, we get 15. Parentheses first. Exponents next. Multiplication and division in the same step. Addition is subtraction. If you got the nerve, from left to right. First come, first serve.
So I hope that short song kind of sticks in your head and maybe helps you remember this order of operations. A couple of other tricks to remember this is if we take the first letter of each one of these operations, they spell PEMDAS. So a lot of people remember it just by remembering PEMDAS. And then you saw in the video flashing, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." So that's another way to remember the order of operations, by just remembering the phrase, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." And again, each of the first letters then of those words would help remind us of a particular operation. All right, so let's apply this. Let's apply our PEMDAS, or our "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." So I've got the problem 36 minus 18 divided by 6. And then I'm going to just write PEMDAS next to that. And we'll kind of break this problem down step by step. So first I look for any P, parentheses. And this problem doesn't have any parentheses, so I don't have to worry about that. Then I look for any E, exponents. Again, this problem doesn't have any exponents, so don't worry about that. Then I look for either a multiplication or a division problem, whichever comes first in that problem. So notice I ignore the 36 minus 18 and go straight to the 18 divided by 6, because that's what comes next in my order of operations. So I do the 18 divided by 6, and that gives me 3. When I do that 18 divided by 6, I'm done with those two numbers because I've traded those in for the 3. The quotient of 18 divided by 6 is 3, and so this 3 takes the place of both the 18 and the 6. I like to call this funneling down. These kind of remind me of a little funnel, so we're funneling down. The next thing then is we need to bring down this part of the problem that we haven't done yet. So we need to bring down the 36 minus. So we need that operation and we need that number. And then we've taken care of multiplication and division, so now we're ready to add and subtract. We should be adding and subtracting as a last item, unless the adding or subtracting would wind up in parentheses. So most of the time, your adding and subtracting is going to be the last thing you do. All right, so then 36 minus 3, and that's where we get our 33, and that's our final answer there, 33. And we've taken care of all of our order of operations, and we're down to a single number answer. So that's how we work the order of operations in that particular problem. Okay, let's look at this next example then. Again, I'm going to write my PEMDAS next to it, so I remind myself which operations to use. All right, so first we look at the P for parentheses. There are no parentheses in this problem, so we can pass that one by. Then we look at the E for exponents. No exponents in this problem. Pass that one by. Now we're to multiply and divide. Okay, so as I look, I've got a division problem here and a multiplication problem here. We do the division problem first because that comes first in our from left to right. So 24 divided by 6 gives me 4. These two are gone now. The 24 divided by 6 equals 4. And then I need to bring down the rest of the problem. So I bring down the plus operation and the 7 and the multiplication and the 2. All right, so we've taken care of one of the multiplication or divisions, but we still have more. We still have a multiplication here. So next we would do the 4 times 2, which gives us 8. So we're done with that. And then we bring down the operation symbol plus and the 7. And then 7 plus 8 gives us the 15, which is our final answer. So we've taken care of all of our operations. Okay, let's look at our next example here then. I'm going to write my PEMDAS down just to help myself remember my steps. So I look for parentheses. There are no parentheses. Then I look for exponents. So I see right here is an exponent problem, and that's 2 to the third. Now just a reminder, that means 2 times 2 times 2. This is equal to 2 to the third. So that's not 6 because 2 times 2 is 4 and 4 times 2 is 8. So be careful there. It's a common mistake to make this a 6 and it's not 6. All right, so that comes down. Oops, that's supposed to look like a funnel. It didn't look like a funnel. To make my 8, I've gotten rid of the 2 to the third. I bring down my other operations and my other numbers because I didn't take care of those yet. So I've done my exponent. Now I need to multiply or divide in order from left to right. I see that I have an 8 times 5 here, so I make that 40. Took care of 8 times 5, and I'm done with multiply or divide. And then finally, I can do my addition here. And so I've got 11 plus 40, which would give me my 51 here. Okay, now I want you to pause the video. I want you to try this next one on your own and see how that goes. Alright, so if I were doing this problem with you, I would have written down PEMDAS first. Then I'm going to look for parentheses, and in this one I have parentheses. So I'm going to do 15 divided by 5 first, which gives me 3. Taking care of that. Bring down the rest of my problem. The parts I haven't taken care of yet, the multiplication symbol, the minus sign, the 62, and the 4. So I've taken care of parentheses. Look for exponents. I don't have any exponents here. Look for a multiply or divide. Here I've got a multiply or divide, so 4 times 3 is 12. Taking care of those. Bring down the rest of my problem, and I'm left with 62 minus 12, which I hope you got 50. Alright, hope that went well for you. Okay, let's do this next one together. PEMDAS. Parentheses, yep, right here. 28 divided by 7 gives me 4. Taking care of that. Bring down the rest of my problem. Things that I haven't taken care of yet. Parentheses are gone. Exponents. Oh, here's an exponent. 4 squared means 4 times 4. So that's 16. That's gone. Bring down the rest of my problem. Now we're up to multiply or divide in order from left to right. I've got a multiplication problem here. That's 20. Got rid of that. Got rid of multiplying, and there's no multiply or divide left. And finally, we're at add or subtract, and 20 minus 16 is 4. All right, one last big whomper problem here. Go ahead and stop the video, try this one on your own, and then resume the video and see how it goes for you. Okay, then we're going to write our PEMDAS. Let's see how you did on this. Be checking yourself here. So parentheses, yep, we've got some right here. We've got 10 minus 9, which gives us 1. All right, that takes care of that. Bring the rest of our operations and numbers down. Okay, no more parentheses, so we can cross that off. Exponents, yep, there's one right here. 3 squared is 3 times 3, or 9. So we're taking care of that. Bring the rest of our problem down. And no more exponents, so we're done with that. Okay, multiply or divide. Well, here's a multiply. 9 times 6 gives us 54. That's gone. Bring the rest of our problem down. Look for more multiply or divide, nothing else, so we're done with those. And then finally add or subtract. Now add or subtract in order from left to right. So we do this 5 plus 54 first, which would give us 59. And then finally we're going to subtract that 1, and so our final answer is 58. Oh, I hope you got that. All right, we'll practice more of these in class, guys. Nice job hanging in there.